Hello and welcome to Ycft. Welcome back, guys.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. If you're new here, then
Hello.
well, it's not welcome back. Hello, nice to meet you. How was your weekend? Your week going all right so far? Today we are talking about Sinister 2.
This is probably one of the most random videos we've done.
No, this literally came from we were recording over a weekend. On the first day we recorded more than we intended, so we had space today to record another one. So that evening,
squeeze one in.
We thought we'd squeeze one in, watch it, do the research on it, because it's a film I've been wanting to see. I've been put off seeing because I'd heard it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And it kind of came on Netflix, and it's like,
well,
why not?
We've also been doing a lot of chats recently about sequels and remakes and reboots, so it kind of just felt right in its own way.
So this film came out in 2015.
It did.
It's a sequel to the 2012 film Sinister.
Yes.
It was written and directed by Scott Derrickson.
Yes.
Who went on to do Doctor Strange.
Yeah, he's done all right for himself.
Yeah, he did write this one.
He did, with a guy called C. Robert Cargill.
Yeah, because he also co-wrote the first one.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Kieran Foy
is director.
Yeah, he went on to direct a film called Eli for Netflix, and I think he directed 2 episodes of The Haunting of Bly Manor.
Oh, okay.
And I just want to say right about the original Sinister film warrants a video all of its own. It
does.
I think for regular videos, I think there was some survey done saying this is actually, judged by heart rates, one of the scariest films.
Yeah, it was like some kind of scientific experiment that they did, and based off that, technically it came in as the scariest.
Yeah, so
which is a pretty big feat.
Obviously, that stars Ethan Hawke, and it's a great film.
It is a good film.
Basic plot, which you need to know going into this one, is Bagul, or Mr. Boogie, is the demonic entity, played again in this by Nicholas King.
Yes, Nicholas King.
Who has Bagul as his license plate, doesn't he?
He clearly had a lot of fun
playing
yeah,
he did. He clearly had a lot of fun.
Babylonian demon. Yeah.
Basically, murders happen at a house that are recorded on tape. Whoever moves into the house will be haunted.
Yes.
And will bear witness to these films. And when they move to the next place, that's when they seal their fate and they are killed. And the cycle goes on.
Yes. Bagul, his whole thing is recruiting children to kill their families.
Yeah, and then take the souls of the children. There's always a missing child at the end because he then takes that child into their
into the fold. It's like a weird cult, almost. A demonic, deadly
The films
cult.
are like an offering.
Yeah,
to him.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it.
It's established in this film that the films are, it can be any form of art. There's an offering of violence to him.
Yeah, this is something that the sequel does expand on. In the first film, it's the films. It's the Super 8 old-timey films. We still have that in this, although it's 16mm.
It's 16mm, accompanied by gramophone vinyl for soundtrack.
Yeah, and radio signals as well.
And radio as well. That's an issue I have straight away. They bring that in just for one scene later on. The only interesting side is, this expands further than what is believed.
Yeah.
But it feels a bit gimmicky. So we follow, Deputy so-and-so.
Who still doesn't have a name.
We still don't know his name.
Yeah. Who's played by Eddie Ransone.
He's great.
Yeah, James Ransone, sorry.
James Ransone. He is now a private investigator. He is trying to break the chain. We find out that he burned down the houses, the Oswald house.
That would finish...
so no one can move into it. So he's hunting down houses in the chain.
Yeah, he's breaking the curse.
To burn them down.
Yeah.
He arrives at this house and there's a family there.
Bugger.
Who... The lead, and that is...
So the mum is played by an actress called Shannon Sossamon.
Which people might know from A Knight's Tale.
Yeah, it's the only other film I've seen.
The chemistry between those two, the best part of this film. They are such good actors together.
It was my favourite part of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. But yeah, she plays a single mum called Courtney. She has her 2 little boy twins with her, Zach and Dylan. Who
were played by real twins in real life.
Real twins in real life. Robert Daniel Sloan and D'Artagnan Sloan.
D'Artagnan, what a name.
D'Artagnan. Yeah, so she is... It turns out that they are actually in hiding from her very abusive ex-husband.
Yeah,
because she only has temporary custody of her twins, and she's desperately trying to hide them.
He seems to have a lot of influence as well.
Yeah, he has a lot of sway. So they're they're hiding in different towns.
Yeah. So
and they've ended up in this farmhouse.
Yeah. So investigator so and so obviously encounters them there. So I'll say this: the first half of the film I do quite like. I was actively aware I wasn't watching as. It's the issue that you have with sequels. I have the we already know the best thing about the original film is the mystery, the investigation.
It's the enigma of it.
We know all this, so even so and so doesn't know everything that Ethan Hawke knew in the last film, so we have to wait for him to catch up as well. But that's a good chunk of the movie. It's like stuff that we already know.
It's quite exposition heavy in that sense. Yeah. I mean,
and so we have a reason as to why they're there, but then when the abusive ex-husband turns up later in the film, they have a reason they want to leave, and so needs to get them to stay, because as soon as they leave, they become next in the chain.
Yes.
That as a setup, it's pretty interesting.
I agree with that, and I actually was very invested in the subplot of, these are survivors of a very abusive domestic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I was invested in her as a mum. I was buying the relationship with her and the kids and the relationship she develops. I mean, it's borderline romantic, but it doesn't fully establish it with her and so.
Yeah.
I actually like that. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I didn't hate this film.
Yeah,
I was expecting to, but I couldn't find myself to outwardly dislike it.
For me, it's on the same level as Brahms the Boy 2 and The Woman in Black 2. The theme there. This is a background film. It's not. It relies a lot more on just jump scares. We see a lot more of Bagul, which I think takes a bit of the fear. And the biggest issue is the ghost kids in this one.
Oh, the ghost kids.
The ghost kids talk. So they try to do it. We see it from the children's point of view. Obviously, he corrupts the children into killing the parents. So we see Dylan. Is Dylan?
Dylan's the good twin.
The good twin. He is being visited by the ghosts every night, and they are getting him to watch the snuff films
that they have done.
In order to start the process.
To recruit him.
So in theory, this must have been happened to Stephanie, I think the girl was.
In the first film.
Which is kind of hinted at because we know she was visited by a ghost girl because she drew a picture of her on the wall. So in theory, this must have been happening to her in the first one. But having the ghost kids were really creepy in the original film. Having them speak, and they are a big presence in this. I like that the kids are seeing them all the time. Mm-hmm. It's very children. It was heavily inspired by Children of the Corn. This wasn't. I think that's why it's set on a farmhouse with a church.
Yeah.
And Milo, the lead ghost boy, is basically Isaac.
This was. It confused me more than anything as we were watching this, because it turns out in this film they established that to recruit the kids, the ghost children have to force them to watch the previous snuff films. And I guess the implication there is they are corrupting the child in order to get them on side. And that is not the process that we see in the first film.
I always assumed the child was possessed.
Possessed by Bagul.
Yeah.
But in this film, it's, no, we need to awaken the bad streak that's already in this child. And to do that by making them watch these films to inspire them to do it.
It's kind of established that Dylan is more like his mum and Zach is more like his dad. He has a bit of a violent streak. Because Zach can see the ghosts too. And he gets jealous that the ghosts don't want him. So he confronts... You often forget that these kids are ghosts because they feel so... Half the scenes where these kids feel... It's like, oh, it's just another layer. They've just done a fade effect. It looks cheap. Mm-hmm. But spoilers. The twist is they didn't want Dylan all along. They wanted Zach. But they wanted to make him jealous enough to want to be... But he clearly establishes early on he has that streak and is willing to do this anyway. Yeah. So that plot to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like
Dylan has bad dreams about him being the killer. Mm. And they say, watching the tapes will make that go away, and that's how they corrupt him. It just doesn't make any sense why they essentially put in more work for themselves by going for Dylan to make Zach jealous. Just go for Zach first.
I think that's what they were going for. It's that they wanted to make it seem like they favoured Dylan.
Because he was more innocent.
And by doing so was slowly but surely awakening that very jealous and violent streak that Zach has and pushing him to the brink, essentially, where they'd have him. But I agree. It's kind of
I also
unnecessary
help, like,
because
Zach especially is not a very good actor. The kids in this are not. They're trying their best, but
No, I think the one that plays Milo, I don't have his name written down, but the ghost boy Milo, he does an okay job at, being the creepy kid.
I would watch him in a Children of the Corn.
Yeah, he'd be good, actually.
He actually would, considering he's
Yeah.
trying to be. They wanted him to be like Isaac.
But I think, again, comparing it to the first film is Ethan Hawke trying to figure out this mystery and, trying to put pieces of the puzzle together. This film, of course, as you say, we've already established there's a demon called Bagul.
Yeah.
So we can't go through all of that again. This film is more about the children.
Yeah.
The
but
children
they do go
are more,
through it all again.
The children are more of a focal point, though.
Yeah.
And that's not what we see in the first film. It's Ethan Hawke's movie.
Because I always got the impression that the ghost kids were trying to warn him.
That's my impression of the first film. I never got the impression that these kids were inherently bad. They were possessed by this demon that even in death still has a cling to their souls. This film suggests that the kid already has to be somewhat of a bad egg in order for it to work.
But we don't get that from Stephanie in the original film.
No, she's a lovely little kid.
It's an issue I have with The Woman in Black too, is it kind of like murkies the lower set in the original film. We have to talk about the snuff films.
I was just going to bring up the snuff movies.
They are not good. What they have to go bigger. I think the change from 8mm to 16mm, I miss that graininess, like that lower quality, the home video look of them. And I know I'm talking about like boundaries of reality here, but we have to believe that kids, along with some supernatural help, have been able to do these things. These are pretty elaborate.
They get
First of all, and we have people being hung over a lake where a CG crocodile get them. We have
that's called Fishing Trip.
We have the kitchen remodel.
Kitchen remodel,
So he's flooded the kitchen, pulled the wires down from the lights to tie their hands, so when he puts a live wire in there, that is pretty complex for a kid to do.
Also bad CGI burns as well.
And the darkest one, which still takes a lot of prep, is
Sunday Service.
Sunday Service, which shows a medieval torture of putting rats in a bucket.
Yeah, and put hot
coals on
top
so that the rats are going to try to eat their way out, which is a cool bit of practical effect.
It's cool, but I mean, it's convoluted as hell.
It's like, this takes organisation.
And then there's also one that we
see Bagul control the rats now. It's like, how much involvement does Bagul have in this?
Oh yeah, Bagul just summoning his rats.
There's one we actually really liked. Which is like Christmas Day, is it called?
Christmas Morning.
Christmas Morning. Where the families, they've dug holes and has buried the family alive with just their head sticking out, and they freeze to death. And there's a really cool one. Like in the first one, it concentrates on their faces usually. At the end of it, you see them, they see the eyes move.
Yeah, one of them is still alive.
And we found out afterwards there's a reason we preferred that one.
Yeah, I swear to God, we did not know this going into it. We just both commented on, that was probably the best one.
Yeah, because it was also like the simplest of them all. So like, in the first one, the kills are... Right, so we got hanging them from a tree, running them over with a lawnmower, setting them on fire. They're pretty simple film.
Yeah.
Like, concept, drowning them.
Still a bit of a feat for a child to pull that off, to string her whole family up from a tree.
The thing that Dylan keeps seeing is like, right, so he's got them in a cornfield, he's cut a hole in the cornfield to make it look like a skull, he's got them up on crucifixes, logistically this is quite complicated.
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But the reason why we both sort of pointed out why we like Christmas Morning, it turns out it was actually supposed to be used in the very first Sinister film, and it was cut purely because of time. But they used it in this film.
Yeah. So the reason we liked it is because it's actually from the first film.
It's actually from the first film,
and it's filmed in the.
It's filmed in Super 8. Yeah. And as you said that we get that close up of the faces that have frostbitten and they're going blue, and I think it's the mum and her eyes move, so she's clearly still barely alive.
Yeah.
It's
the last breath coming out as well.
That's the creepiest one.
So we know why it's the best one, because it was from the previous film.
Yeah, there's one that we very briefly glimpsed called A Trip to the Dentist.
Yeah.
Which is, you can probably imagine what that entails.
And then at the end, they do a weird thing because obviously she ends up back with the abusive husband through blackmail essentially and moves on. So things start to go awry there. He is the only one that gets burnt on the stake, and it's like, well, now because he's such a horrible character from what we see him do through the film.
Well, yeah, that's fine with us.
That's fine with us, and then
don't care.
Officer so he interrupts in time to save them. So then it's like Miles saying to Zach, "Oh, you have to finish film." So he's running with a sickle and the camera through the cornfields, trying to get them back into the house. I'm like, I'm not taking this film seriously anymore.
There was definitely for you a cut-off point, I think, where the
I
film
think
had you
when
and then it
when he
lost
goes
you.
to the new professor, because he must be able to get Vincent D'Onofrio back because his character's missing. As soon as we got the expedition done, I just turned my brain switched off. My interest in the film just dipped.
It dwindled
Yeah.
considerably. Yeah, but again, that was a very exposition-heavy scene.
Of stuff we already
relaying information that we as the audience already know.
It's like introducing the ham radio that we are going to see literally in one shot at the end of the film.
I think also my problem was Zach, who is the boy that ultimately the Ghost Children want to make his movie and, you know, for him to be the newest recruit. For me, there just wasn't a decent enough build-up to that. Because
again, it's like you can see it coming a mile away.
Yeah, it's like they've pitted the twins against one another. One of them is good, one of them is bad because it's implied he's inherited his dad's violent streak. He hits his brother a few times. He calls his mum a horrible word and, you know, he's just generally like the rebellious one. But for him to just go from doing just general bad, like little kid stuff to being corrupted enough to
murder,
to like scarecrow his entire family and set them all on fire, that to me is a stretch. Without possession, that to me is a massive stretch. It would make sense if he was possessed by a demon, but this film does away with the possession element.
And
it's
by the
purely
end of this
corruption.
The story hasn't progressed any further.
No, it's just...
Than it began.
No.
Realistically, the first Sinister was a film that didn't need a sequel. And Jason Blum, around the time this film was released, he said he initially wanted to do... he was interested in doing a crossover with Insidious called In Sinister. Annoyingly, like, part of my brain's like, I kind of want to see that.
Kind of want to see it.
But I think as of 2019, he said
Jason Blum has said
Blumhouse has said it's not likely. If it is going to come back, it might be as a TV series.
Again,
I don't think it's going to come back at this point because it didn't do very well at the box office either, did it, compared to the first one?
No, it didn't. So the budget for this one was 10 million. It grossed 54.1 million.
Yeah.
It did okay, but it just critics didn't like it, fans didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's a shame because again, I can't say I outright hated this film. I've definitely seen worse horror movies.
I have seen worse. I said the first half of the film, I was, apart from actively being aware I'm not watching as good a film as the original. Yeah. There was just a point that was a cut-off point for me, and I'm like, I was like, I'm bored.
You know, weirdly, I was interested in this film again because of Courtney's character with so-and-so, the domestic violence subplot. I would be intrigued to watch that as a film.
Yeah.
The horror side of this fell down massively. Neither of us were scared watching this film. Some of the jump scares got me, but you could still very much see where they were coming.
I remember watching that. I remember it's going, right, fake out. Scare. And the scare came. I was like, you could time the jump scares to a beat.
Yeah.
And the worst thing a horror film can do is be predictable.
There was too much Bagul in this as well.
Yeah, far too much Bagul. But a lot of time he's just standing there.
Yeah. Also, because in the first film, he is in the snuff films, isn't he?
A lot of time, yeah.
Yeah, you see, like in the pool sequence where the boy drowns his family.
The closest thing we get is a picture
in the pool.
of the church, and you see him in the background. Where so-and-so clearly was looked at these photos before, says, "Oh, what is that now?" Gets spine playing. I was like, well, I could see him stood there. And then really badly CG jumps out of the photo. It's like...
It's cheap. Lots of cheap scares in this.
Yeah.
And it is a shame because...
the first film is so special.
But I also appreciate when... It must be hard for a sequel to deliver the same, but also have to do something different.
Yeah.
And, you know, I always advocate that, you know, horror, it needs to be applauded when it does dare to be different.
I think...
the execution of this wasn't brilliant.
The idea of showing how the child will be possessed is interesting, and it would be hard to do that without the children speaking.
Yeah.
But the ghost children talking, they talk a lot.
Well,
in this film,
they do. There's too much. I mean, you know, again in the first film where they're just silent spectators.
It's when even Hawk's walking through the house and he can't see the ghosts, but they're walking in slow motion. You
running past him.
There's a scene where, like, you know, it's like. There's dead space. Like, there's a ghost face going to pop up there. I know it is. It happens. It's still a bit of a scare, even though you know it's coming. There's something inherently creepy.
But stylistically,
about
it's
that film.
interesting. And then it's also the deeper implication of that. These little children's souls are just
Trapped.
trapped and are still under
Even like
control
the
of this
final
demon.
butchery of that family, it's simple. It's just an axe.
Yeah, it's an axe. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Very
just,
simple.
The initial plot of him trying to break the chain, I do like it. I was like, that
I
makes sense.
And yeah.
But to me, the kid element of it just completely falls apart.
They did away with the possession to make way for the corruption side of it, which I don't know if I liked, and I still find it a little bit confusing, which doesn't help.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I will rewatch this movie. There's parts of it I liked. I like the performances of Shannon Sossamon and James Ransone.
Yeah. I like the idea that it can be any art form. So in theory, because we know it's a hammer. So in theory, there could be a box of VHS tapes.
Yeah.
There could be.
Yeah, basically the Bagul needs art. That's how he gains power. I suppose
we know that from the first ones. Like any image is a gateway to his world.
Yeah,
that's how we see the images like moving.
Yeah, it's strange considering it's the same writers from the first film.
Yeah, I think less. No offense to Kieran Foy, I think Scott Derrickson is just better with a camera.
But yeah, maybe.
There's a lot of like boring shots in this.
It's weird though as well because
just like I did feel the absence of Ethan Hawke.
Did you?
I really did, because I feel we are so invested in his character and the reason why he's in that house.
Yeah, I didn't mind the absence. I liked Courtney.
Yeah, I like those. I don't know why. Ethan Hawke carries that film predominantly on his own.
Do you know? I know this is a Sinister
and he
2
wears
film, but it's
the best cardigans.
He did a lot for those elbow patches.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know I am aware this is a Sinister 2 movie, and I'm bringing the first one into it a lot. But when you think about it, the first Sinister film, it didn't break, like groundbreaking elements in horror. It didn't really do anything drastically different. We've seen demon films before. We've seen child possession before.
We've seen supernatural films where it requires an investigation.
There's nothing inherently different about it.
Similar to what The Conjuring did a year later, of taking something that's been pre-established and done a lot and just doing it really well.
Yeah, the execution of
it. Good acting, good music, good lighting, and good camera work. Just constructed a really well put together film.
And that added sort of fun element of the snuff films as well. Because they are... I mean, when I think of Sinister, I think of the films.
I remember my sister saw this film years ago, I think when it came out, and she told me not to see it because you're probably not going to like
Sinister
it. They ruin the films. They overuse the films, and I do agree with that. Like, the films didn't do it for me, apart from the one that was actually from the original.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do agree. I think one of the biggest downfalls is introducing the ghost children, making them characters. It didn't always work, but I still liked it.
Yeah,
I did like it.
I think you enjoyed it more than I did.
Yeah, I mean,
it was I think my issue was it was unnecessary.
Oh yeah, it is. It's totally unnecessary. You brought up Woman in Black 2. It didn't need to be made. It
didn't need to be made.
No, and
I rewatched that recently as well.
I also agree with Sinister 2, and then are we going to spoil the very end of Sinister 2? Like the very, very end?
Nah, let's just leave it a bit ambiguous in case anyone actually wants to watch it.
Okay, but one of the final scenes is we suddenly see the reappearance of the radio, the ham radio, where the first broadcast of a murder was, what you call it, when it's something sent out on the radio. Broadcast. That's the word. No explanation how it just
that bit actually didn't bother me, because you got to bear in mind when
the tapes appear randomly.
The tapes always appear when they move into a house. The tapes appeared.
But why it targeted that particular character? I think that's why I'm a bit.
Yeah, maybe it's because he's caused problems.
He's pissed off.
Yeah.
Pissed off.
Cheap jump scare to end the film.
Yeah, it almost feels like the writers were like, what do we do here?
Raised more... Yeah, it's like, we need to wrap this up.
Yeah.
What do we do now?
Yeah. Quick jump scare.
But we also need to leave it open for a sequel in case we get a third one, which, we haven't and probably won't. Sinister 1, it's great just on its own. Not everything has to
No, the mystery of it.
The mystery of like
Just the all-around creepiness of this horrible humanoid-looking demon that wears a suit.
He does wear a suit. Yeah.
And recruits children.
Yeah. It's just that investigation side of it, and because he's obviously he's an author, so he's writing a book. You can tell the reasons he's moved into this house are not the best, but
no, he's a bit of a dick.
He's there purely for selfish reasons.
Oh, 100% he is. Yeah.
But we are so invested in that character going into it. So yeah, it's a bit of an unnecessary sequel. It is a perfectly okay background.
Fine.
It's fine. The way I'll have to put this one out after Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase, because I feel like I just constantly describe that as
perfectly
fine. Perfectly fine. It's a great background film.
It's not particularly, I mean, I say this, some people might find it scary. We did not.
Yeah.
The first Sinister film is unnerving.
An aura of creepiness throughout it.
It's genuinely quite disturbing, stylistically and thematically. This one it's just your average horror movie, I guess.
Yeah.
That tries to play on the best parts of the first, but fails to create that same fear.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it. I had a little bit of fun with this film.
It's better than The Woman in Black 2.
Oh,
and it's better than
I agree with that, yeah.
The Boy 2.
Yeah, I think the acting, for the most part, was pretty good in this.
From all the adults, it was good. It was good. It was really good.
Yeah, Shannon and James, they were my favourite part of this movie.
Yeah, same. I think they took the so-and-so bit a bit too far, though. Just give him a name.
But it's also, his whole character is, in the first film as well, he's a goofball.
Yeah.
And so that kind of disrupts the tone of this film immediately because he's the main character, one of the main characters, and he has that, inherently kind of comedic way about him. So it's kind of the edge is taken away a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you laugh at this guy a lot of the time. So yeah, tonally this one's a bit all over the place. It's
an easy watch.
Yeah, it is an easy watch.
I suppose just try not to think about it too much when you're watching it.
I don't know if we've sold it very well, but it's on Netflix, so
Yeah, it's on Netflix. So was the first one actually. Both of them are on there.
Yeah.
So I obviously at some point in the future I do want a video on why I think the first Sinister film is such a good film. And we're going to talk about maybe why.
And we've got science to prove it now.
Yeah, there's why is your average cinema goer scared of that film?
Yeah. I'll need to rewatch it and see if it has the same effect on me.
Same. So, thanks for stopping by, guys. Sinister. And Sinister 2.
And Sinister 2.
Mixed bag. Really. Both ends of the spectrum of horror.
Yeah.
Thank you for stopping by. We hope you enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about it. Like, are we absolutely wrong? Have we just missed some detail that actually makes this a masterpiece?
Yeah. Are you intrigued enough to maybe go and seek it out now?
Yeah. Seek it out. Watch it. Let us tell us we're all right. I want people to back me up on this, to back us up on this. So
and let us know what your favourite of the snuff films were as well. That's always fun.
Yeah. The snuff films within the films. What are your favourite ones?
That's a sentence I will never ever say again.
No, not only ever in relation to the Sinister franchise.
Tell us what your favourite snuff film is, guys. Anyway,
until next time.
Bye.